Hello guys, hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to take an extensive look at what DICE have planned for the progression and live service component of Battlefield 5 in what they're calling the Tides of War. As we now know, there is no paid for premium pass in BF5 and instead Tides of War is its free replacement. All of the following information was taken from a behind the scenes live stream and is work in progress, so some aspects of this may change. Let's get stuck in then. When you start playing BF5, you will create a company. Think of it as a big toy box or arsenal where you keep and manage all of your soldiers, weapons and vehicles that you can play with in multiplayer and co-op. Wrapped up within the company you create is the progression within the game, and it's in here that you'll spend time making decisions on how to configure your soldiers and units to suit your gameplay style. And there are 5 main types of progression in here. Number 1, player progression. This is the typical lifetime progress and gating, your overall rank, let's say, and a way to show how much time that you've invested to get rewards, progress and rank up. Number 2, class progression. Similar to BF1, if you play as an assault, you'll progress your assault class soldiers, and this controls your access to more soldier archetypes, we'll get onto that later, equipment and indicates your particular class mastery. Number 3, weapon progression and modification. Say you've just got a new MG42, what are you going to do with it? How will you modify its features to change its statistics, and how will you make it look? Number 4, vehicle progression. Pretty much the same thing with specialization trees that affect gameplay, and also visual customization is in there too. And number 5, chapter progression. We'll get onto what chapters are later, but think of this like the big picture where you'll progress within the live service story to earn new thematically tied rewards to the various events in history of World War II. I think the main thing to take away from all of this is that you play the game the way you want to play and you're going to progress on those things, so it's natural linear progression. Moving on, let's say that I created a brand new assault soldier and then I added them to my company. What options do I have there to customize how that soldier will play? Well, that's where the new archetype system comes into play. We all know that the assault class can do a bunch of roles, could be anti-infantry, anti-tank, even anti-air, designed to be good at many different things. So the archetype system exists to create a situation where players understand the roles and the fantasies of the class that they're playing. DICE said in the stream that they don't want to make one size fits all classes anymore. Now there are very specific archetypes too that are really good at one particular thing, such as this exotic recon paratrooper here. And if you want to pause and take a look at the kind of weapons, gadgets and abilities that they will have, take a quick scan of the screenshot now. But of course you will be able to change out the guns and gadgets here too if you want. The overall goal with the archetype system is to maintain flexibility but give tools to solve most of the problems that you're facing in game, but you will need to lean on squad play and each other with teamwork to be as effective as possible. So how do you unlock stuff and get new gear in BF5? Well, it sounds like it's very simple. You play with the class and you get new gear for it. If you're playing with the assault class, that's going to give you access to assault rifles. However, when you play inside the live Tides of War service, that's when you're going to get the new stuff that's added to the game down the line. So the new gear will be unlockable when you play inside the Tides of War. Whether that's a new map pack or a new mode, DICE said that they want to give new content a sense of urgency for the players to really want to be a part of these events, and also that they don't want to randomly select gear for players. So if you like sniper rifles, you'll be able to pick which one you want. We mentioned specializations back there too. What are they in this game? In layman's terms, specializations are the choices that you make on your soldiers, weapons and vehicles that affect how they handle and act in gameplay terms. For example, tanks will have specialization trees where you can make choices that fit the style that you want to play. On tanks in particular, they have a significant impact on gameplay but also visual changes too, and this is very important. So say that you want a more heavily armoured version of your favourite tank. So you would go into your company, pick that tank and choose an extra armor specialization on it, and then you will see extra armor on that tank in game, on the treads and on the sides, so other players can recognize that in game and realize what they're going up against. so they'll be able to look at you and go, oh, damn, that tank, for example, has got reactive armor. Maybe I should wait for my team before I attack. It's going to be a bit more difficult. And then let's say you've progressed that tank and you're happy with the choices you've made. What if you want to make new choices? Well, all you would have to do is go and create another tank, add that to your company, and go through the specialization tree again, making choices again. Can be different if you want. You don't have to reprogress too. So it's going to be simple for players to build up an arsenal. And think of it like this, like you're almost going to have a deck of cards or units tailored to whatever specific gameplay style that you want. What about gun specializations then? After all, your gun is arguably the most important and used thing in the game. So progression with the guns and how they act in gameplay is handled via specializations only. So some examples DICE gave us were, do I need a bipod? Do I need a bayonet? What kind of sight do I want? And of course, new choices will be added and developed as the game grows and adds new content. And you'll be able to customize how the weapon looks too. So DICE have moved away from the simple skin system in BF1. Every weapon will now have between 5 and 7 points of customization. Stocks, sights, muzzles, chassis, you can put different skins on them, you can mix and match to create a unique identity for your gun. But for guns in BF5, the visual customization is separate to the gameplay. So gameplay changes come from specializations, and the design choice here is that you can make your gun look any way you want it to without impacting gameplay. So you'll never be in a situation where you might want a certain visual customization, but it forces your gun to act in a certain way. So visual and gameplay is separate. I'm a big fan of that. And DICE are going for players having unique identity for all of their guns if they want to. There are a ton of visual customization options for your soldiers and vehicles too. For your soldiers, you can change your helmets, face, gender of all classes, war paint, jackets, torsos, tattoos, upper body accents, pants. Do you want to wear shorts in the snow? Go ahead. So instead of just being a support player, it's now your support player from your company and a unique look. My biggest concern with this though is that I don't want this to have a big impact on being able to identify class silhouettes quickly, and that's something that other Battlefield games do very well. So I think a good solution to this would be to only allow certain styles for certain classes, so then at least you know that the support class can only have a certain number of different looking helmets, so you know what you're going up against. Or perhaps even having the option to turn off skins and cosmetics completely if you don't want to play the game like that. With that said, you will be able to evolve your soldiers' looks over time with the new cosmetic options coming in Tides of War, and the most hardcore players who take part in thematic events will be given unique cosmetic options that they can wear to demonstrate the effort that they've put into the game. Tanks, as I mentioned, will have visual customizations too, and they will include paint jobs, sandbags, boxes, branches, allowing the player to create an identity for their favourite machines. DICE said that they want players to create iconic looking vehicles and build up a name or reputation or become infamous for themselves and teammates and enemies, so they might recognise your vehicle and remember you. Airplanes will have 3 distinct pieces to customise: the nose cone, the fuselage and the tail. So what about assignments to unlock stuff in BF5? How are they going to work? The mission system has been revamped and you'll see a bunch of new ways and different types of activities and challenges which will take you through the World War II experience with clear pathways to get the gear that you want to unlock. And this will be stuff like daily and weekly activities, and these will be short focused activities where you might earn grind currency, and with that you'll get new gear. So you'll log in every day, churn through assignments and give a quick focus for the player, which will be easy enough for new players to adapt to through the different experiences of the game as they go. DICE stated that the team has focused on tying these contextually with what players want to do. If you're playing as an assault player regularly, then you'll get assault type missions with assault type rewards, giving choices in how players tackle these daily assignments because they don't want them to interrupt the daily enjoyment, let's say, and the natural flow of the game. So these are going to be broad orders, and if there is new content in the game or things that DICE would like you to try out, then there'll be options for new orders and assignments based around those new things. On top of this, there's going to be special assignments, which you'll have to equip to participate in, and these are much longer quest lines, let's say, for progression and gear, and will be a longer chase for loot if you want to demonstrate a big investment of time. And it's a choice that you've made to take on one of these special assignments to get something iconic or rare at the end of it. And they can be done in different ways, kind of like how you would do the service assignments in BF1, where you can pick 5 out of the 6 things to do. Think of these like, what am I going to do for the next week in BF5? And then you'll pick a special assignment related to that goal. And these goals will provide flexibility, guidance, and pathways to find things that you want to unlock. So some of them will be team play focused, and you'll be able to complete them faster with teammates. So hopefully they're more PTFO. And you can take multiple of these or none of them at your own discretion. What's the game economy like? Well, it's quite simple. You do assignments, earn in-game grind currency, and spend it however you want on weapons and visuals. If you want to, you can buy more special assignments with grind currency too. It's worth noting here that DICE confirmed there will be no randomized loot boxes in BF5, and gameplay unlocks will only be available to be earned through play. There will be a virtual real-world money currency in the game too, but DICE have said so far that you'll only be able to buy cosmetic items with this. So wrapping things up, overall, Tides of War, what is it and what is the journey that DICE want players to go on here? As we talked about, premium is gone, so that means no paying for maps or modes, no loot boxes, no more segmentation of the player base. Finally, in a modern Battlefield game, the developers want to roll out new content for all of the players, which is great. So they want to build a live service for this game that focuses on a journey that players do together, building your companies with each other and exploring the World War II era and events that took place. And the promise, they say, of this live service is to make you feel like you're taking part in what's considered as the greatest drama in human history, with evolving and expanding gameplay. So this might not just be revisiting new locations, modes and maps, but it could also be feeling changes in the core gameplay in the same way that history changed over time during the war. So Tides of War will focus big on evolving gameplay, building off the new systems and features in BF5 like fortifications and attrition, and develop those systems, enhance them and change the landscape of the game, and then pair that with the narrative story of World War II and new content. So the goal is to make it feel like you're going on a journey. How are they going to do this? Well, one example they gave in the presentation was to give players new ways to use the gadgets and toys that they already have, to constantly introduce new ways to play the game and add additional meaningful progression with new paths to new gameplay. So maybe a certain update will come out for the game that might change the meta of the core sandbox multiplayer. So the game that you play in October might not feel like the game that you're playing in January, so something new is always coming. They also mentioned that this may include revisiting old content when updates roll out, for example. So they might update an older map or extend it in certain areas, open it up for new areas of operations, for example. So I think what DICE were hinting at here is that we'll be getting evolving maps over time. Sounds pretty interesting. Now in this presentation, DICE said that the 4 main pillars they're going for with the Tides of War live service are: number 1, an evolving narrative. So that's stories that are unknown, untold and unexpected. Number 2, evolving gameplay, to grow new gameplay opportunities in content that's in the game already. 3, new gameplay, could be new modes and limited time events, adding things that change the meta of the game. And number 4, completely new content such as new maps, weapons, gear, game modes and specializations. And within the Tides of War is the calendar or roadmap, let's say, the idea that players should always feel and see that something new is coming, whether that's a daily, weekly or monthly commitment to interactions and challenges and activities. So every time you come back and play the game, you should feel like there's something new to do. Like next week, what's on the horizon? So they said that it's a dynamic living game. You don't get much more marketing speak than that. They showed us some examples of these. So for a chapter, which we've already talked about, part 1 of the chapter could be stuff that's free from the canon story of World War II. So that could be things like interesting, more wacky, let's say, limited time game modes. But part 2 of chapter 1 could be wrapped up within the real events. For instance, what is the concept of Blitzkrieg and what does that feel like when they've got Blitzkrieg Week in the game? How does that new element change the gameplay experience? Or it could be special infantry tactics or airborne and paratroopers. What does that feel like when they unleash paratroopers within the entire Battlefield sandbox? It could be playing through historical key events of World War II with a restricted set of missions and custom rule sets that immerse players in historical experiences that give them the feeling of what these people in World War II went through and how that might feel and play in a modern multiplayer game in 2018. So in regards to that, it might be an experience focusing on resistance fighters in Norway. So it looks like that they're going to be using these big overarching chapters or seasons and new content to tell a narrative. What happened at Rotterdam in the early part of the war? What happened at Dunkirk? What happened at Omaha Beach? So rewards for taking part in the new content in the Tides of War, like the new maps, the game modes, the chapters, the dailies, the weeklies, the special assignments, they're going to be stuff like new vehicles, new weapons, timed events, dog tags that showcase that you were there for those special thematic modes, stuff like face paints, soldier skins, weapon skins, visual customization, just to showcase how much time that you've spent in Battlefield 5's version of World War II through this Tides of War system. Another specific example they told us was, let's say that they ran a limited time event based around Norwegian resistance fighters, and if you're playing in that season, then you might earn a new type of Tiger tank, or a unique Norwegian snow camouflage for your tank, or new weapons that fit with the story they're telling at that time, and even special assignments too. And unfortunately, that's about all of the information we got. I know there's a ton of stuff there, and I've condensed it as much as I could without leaving any of the important stuff out. So that's what the Tides of War is in BF5. On paper at least, that's the live service, the DLC, the new content. So in BF5, the progression works like this. So the general idea is that you'll grow your own set of soldiers to fit the needs that you have as a player within the element of the company. And in that company, you're going to evolve vehicles, soldiers, add new ones, new weapons, and that will adapt and change as the game adapts as a live service. And finally, there's going to be a big focus on community embarking on a journey together through the whole of DICE's version of World War II. And that's all that we were told. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give me a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.